One. Hello there. Welcome once again to Crazy Talks with Wise People. Today we have a guest from Texas. She's got a very unique story, her testimony about her experiences with God, the real God, Jesus, who we believe in, we Christians believe in. She's a publisher. She had received an award called Decided Excellence Catholic Media Award. It was presented in Friendswood, Texas, United States. She's a proofreader, educator. She's a data entry specialist. She is a freelancer. She's a math and English teacher. She's got a lot of credentials, but I will not be able to read all. I'm just going to present her to you because she's got a lot. I'm just going to ask her to add some more if she would wish to. But I've already told you about the Faith and Family in Friendswood magazine, which she publishes right now. And I hope you'll be able to get a copy for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, very beautiful, radiant, fantastic. Sister Gretchen Mosel.
Hey, it's so nice to see you, Doctor. And I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. I can't take full credit for what you said about the award. It was the Decided Excellence Catholic Media cover of the year or cover national first place cover. And my September issue of 2023 won national cover. And I'm very proud of that. Um, so I grew up in Texas in a town called Friendswood, uh, about halfway between Houston and Galveston. I'm the daughter of a NASA engineer and a lifelong educator. And I was a babysitter for the astronauts, for
Mm.
several astronauts growing up. I was blessed to be raised in a faith-filled home. My father was Lutheran and my mother was Catholic. I was raised Lutheran, but I would like to say, a curiosity about just Christianity in general. And I was very drawn to the Bible as a child. And before I even really read, I love to look at the pictures. Daniel in the lion's den, and just all of that was so magical to me. And I remember just praying, Jesus, I love you. And that's all I knew. As I grew a little older, I found that I was really drawn to the New Testament of the Bible. And I was also drawn to a section of my mother's Bible. She had a huge, thick Bible that had detailed pictures of um, different stories from the gospel, the parables, Old Testament. And as I got to the reading age, I started reading a little more and reading a little more. So I can't say that I had like a formal Bible education other than like Sunday school when I was little. But it started with those pictures and that imagery. And I feel that the Holy Spirit was moving through me at that age and drawing me to Christ.
Mm. Sister,
So,
okay, go on.
sorry.
Go on.
So I was also a pianist from a very young age. I started composing when I was 6 years old.
Mm.
And my grandfather on my mother's side of the family was a violinist with the El Paso Symphony Orchestra for 50 years. He was first chair, concertmaster,
Mhm.
and I had felt a real connection with my grandfather through music. In fact, one time we made a recording of Ave Maria
Mm.
um, with me playing the piano and him playing the violin. Unfortunately, Hurricane Harvey, it's gone. I guess we'll listen to it again when we're in heaven.
Mhm.
But Hurricane Harvey damaged the recording. But I mentioned my grandparents because my grandmother was very faith filled and would go to the church and pray, not on like mass days, not just on Sundays. She'd just go light a candle and pray. So one day, my mother gets a telephone call. It's the early 80s. And my grandmother says, "Do you believe in the power of prayer?" I do. So we hear this magical story. When I was really little, my grandfather had a Vion violin. Vion was the prodigy of Stradivarius. If you've heard of Stradivarius,
Mhm.
he is the grand uh, violin maker several centuries ago.
Ah.
His violins are hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. They're just prized violins. And Viome was his prodigy. My grandfather had a uh, Viome violin. So it was very beautiful, exquisite, and expensive.
Mm.
So one day, my grandma and grandpa had gone out to eat, and they came home, and the home had been broken into.
Mm.
And the people who had taken it had taken some old beads, like Mardi Gras kind of beads, nothing that was even valuable at all, just plastic.
Mhm.
And they had taken a fake fur coat and my grandfather's VM violin. So my grandmother went to church for years and years. I want to say it was like 11 years, and just kept lighting a candle and praying for the intention that they would recover this violin.
Mm.
So what my grandfather is starting to uh, slow down a little bit, not mentally or anything, but he's retiring from becoming an accountant, and he retires from playing the violin
Mhm.
with the El Paso Symphony Orchestra. So he gets a call one day from a fellow violinist
Mhm.
from the symphony, from the orchestra.
Mm.
He calls him and says, "Gene, I have a violin here.
Mhm.
This little girl that I was giving lessons to has a violin." And on it, he said, "I recognized immediately that this was your violin, your Vion violin."
Mm.
This little girl had bought the, her parents had bought this violin at a pawn shop for $99.
Mm. Oh.
And had, because they didn't want to spend a lot of money on a violin, they
Mm.
spent $99 on this violin, and she was taking violin lessons with it. And
Mm.
so my grandfather wrote her a check
Mm.
for, I don't know, $750, $1,000. I don't know what it was, but he wrote her a big check to pay for like a year's lessons and to pay for the violin. And he got his violin back after 11 years. So the thinking is that whoever had it didn't realize what they had the whole time.
Mm.
And it wasn't in great shape, but it wasn't ruined. He was able to get it like fixed and everything. So
Oh,
whoever had it was playing it,
yeah.
who knows where. And this is El Paso. There's a beautiful culture of mariachi bands and whatever.
Mhm.
Who knows where this violin had been?
Yeah.
And it found its way back to my grandfather.
Oh my.
So for all those years, my grandmother had prayed and prayed and prayed about
Oh.
this violin, and it came back. What are the chances that some little girl is going to take
Yeah.
violin lessons from
Mm.
someone in the symphony?
Yeah.
So that happened when I was a young teenager, that they got the violin back. Around, so isn't that a beautiful story?
It is. Wow, isn't that a miracle? What you're looking for is looking for you. Ah, fantastic.
Yes, yes.
Mm,
And in the most unexpected way. And
yeah.
so that is, and this comes further too, that is one thing that's a lesson I'm still learning, is that the path that God has for us isn't always what we think it's going to be, but
Say
He
that again.
has
Say
His
that
own
again, please. Say
way.
that again. What God's perfect will is, say it again, please. God's perfect will is, it's not
God's perfect will is.
not always what we think it is, or not always what we want to be.
Yeah, not always what we think it is, not always what it's going to be. And I feel like, and I still do this,
Mm,
I still want to make my own path, and
mm,
I have my goals and I want to meet those goals, but God sometimes has something else in mind. And
mm,
so this story is just like, you don't know where his providence is going to come from.
mm.
So no, I don't want to take about too much time. So uh I told you I wouldn't say I had read the whole Bible through,
Yeah.
but I knew the parables. I'm still a kid at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say maybe I'm about 12 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I know the parables. I haven't read like Revelations or anything.
Yeah.
And I knew the basic Old Testament stories that everybody knows,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't gone through and read like First Kings or Chronicles, or I hadn't done all of that. But I was drawn to the Bible. And I remember two things. One, that my grandmother in Nebraska, my father's
Mm-hmm.
um, mother, had all these religious books, like prayer books, down in the basement. And sometimes there was a bedroom down there, and sometimes I would sleep down there, and I would just stay up reading these books, just different things about prayer and whatever. Then on the other side of the family, my mother's parents, the ones that had the miracle, over there, they had books upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and they had these old missalettes from like the 1940s or 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother was cleaning out the bookshelves,
Mm-hmm.
I said, "What are you going to do with this?" She goes, "I'm going to get rid of them." I said, "Well, can I have them?" So I had this rich history on both sides of the family of reading all of these faith books. In addition to that, in my mother's Bible, there was a huge page. This is a big, thick, white, leather brown Bible, a huge page with a color of the rosary
Mm-hmm.
and the different mysteries of the rosary,
Mm-hmm.
which I had never heard of a rosary before.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was very interested in that. And so as time went on, we went on a trip to Europe
Mm-hmm.
when I was 12. I want to say it was 1983.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Italy, France, Switzerland, Austria, just a lot of different places. But one place that we went was Dachau, the concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
Before our trip, I had done a lot of reading. I was a nerdy kid who just was always reading books.
Yeah.
And actually saw Dachau. I had already done some reading about World War II, what was a concentration camp, all of those things. It was a very sobering moment for my brother and I. He's a year younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what the barracks were, what the crematoriums were, everything. Very sobering. And I feel like that was a part of a lifelong interest in multicultural literature and different cultures and the struggle that different peoples have had with war and prejudice and whatever. I mention this because the following year, St. Maximilian Kolbe was canonized
Mm-hmm.
and by St. Pope John Paul II. He died in a concentration camp in
Mm-hmm.
Auschwitz. And he became one of my favorite saints. So as time goes on, I'm going to kind of skip over long parts because I want to get to the miracles.
Mm,
I became a teacher. I started as an undergrad working with special students as a teacher's aide.
mm,
Then I taught high school English,
mm,
seniors and freshmen. I started teaching a multicultural literature class. And then I went to and this was public school. Then I went to a nearby Catholic school because a friend of mine became the principal there.
yeah, yeah.
And my first year there, I started experiencing burning
Mm,
in my leg,
right.
my right leg.
Mm,
And I couldn't figure out what it was.
mm,
It got to the point where I would be driving to work. It was a 10 or 15-minute drive. I
mm,
couldn't even make it to work. I had to stop, pull over, get out of my car,
mm,
and stand and walk for a minute because my leg burned so bad. So here I live in Southeast Texas where hurricanes happen.
mm,
We had a tropical storm called Allison
mm.
coming, which ended up setting records for the amount of rain that fell. People hear hurricane, but they think tropical storms aren't such a big deal.
Yeah.
This was a big deal.
Mm,
It dumped like, I know it was more than 40 inches of water.
mm,
Everything was flooded. You couldn't go anywhere.
mm,
So we knew this storm was coming, and I came home from work, and it was a Friday. And I said, Mom, I can't feel anything.
mm,
I don't have any feeling. I think something's wrong.
mm,
So we went to the emergency room. I had never been in a hospital in my life,
mm,
and I'm 30 years old. We go to the hospital. Meanwhile, right as we go to the hospital, Allison hits this tropical storm. And I'm at the hospital and they immediately bring me to surgery. I don't remember if they gave me an MRI or an x-ray or whatever it was, but I was in surgery immediately. What
mm.
ended up happening was that the burning feeling that I had in my leg was the result of this pressure on my spinal cord. And I had a calcification the size of a jumbo shrimp
Mm,
that ended up, after all of these weeks, nicking my spinal cord,
mhm,
and I was paralyzed.
mhm,
So they did the first surgery that night. My mom had to live at the hospital because you couldn't leave.
mhm.
Meanwhile, in Houston, the medical center in Houston is one of the best medical centers in the United States.
Yeah.
And all of these skyscrapers
Mhm,
have their generators in the basement. They don't anymore, but they did then. And Allison was so bad that it flooded all of these basements
mm.
where the generators were. So basically, the medical center in Houston lost power.
Oh,
So they're transporting all of their patients to other area
yeah,
hospitals surrounding Houston.
yeah.
And I was in Clear Lake. So they're bringing all of these people
Mm,
to our hospital in like semi trucks and however they can get them there. So this is a chaotic scene.
mm,
Calcification that had nicked my spinal cord was so bad that they had to have a second surgery the next day to get the rest of it out. So Friday I have a surgery, Saturday I have a surgery. I wake up and I'm like, I'm gonna walk. I am not gonna let this stop me. So I got in my walker, and so I have no feeling from my waist to my knees.
mhm,
For some reason my legs will work,
mhm,
but I don't have any feeling there. So it's really easy for me to fall. And nothing's working below my belly button. Nothing's working.
mm.
So I got in that walker and I started doing rounds around like where they
Yeah.
where the nurses station was and such like that. So I went back home after a week or so. I start doing physical therapy, and it was a come to Jesus time. Chances are, for every 6 months that you're paralyzed, your chance of getting feeling back goes down.
Uh-huh.
So after 6 months, it goes down. After 12 months, it goes down even more. After 18 months, pretty much you're not going to get your feeling back. That's the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just come to a point in my life where I accepted that maybe this was God's plan for me, that I was supposed to be this way. I
Mm-hmm.
still taught first grade,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
but I had come to an acceptance part. So during this time, I had mentioned when I was young, I had been attracted to the rosary.
Mm-hmm.
I became very interested in scriptural rosaries.
Mm-hmm.
Rosaries where you pray the scriptures with each mystery,
Mm-hmm.
or where you pray a scripture with every single rosary bead,
Right, right.
all sorts of
Mm.
scriptural rosaries. But I had
That's what
never prayed a rosary with
that's what you
someone.
call meditative rosary praying, right?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Because as you're praying that mystery and that scripture, you sit there and think about what it is that Jesus went through,
Mm.
or what is the fruit of this mystery,
Right.
and what can I learn from that?
You are right.
So, for example, if I'm trying to think of a good one.
The
Well,
joyful mystery.
the first joyful mystery is the Annunciation,
Yeah,
and this is pretty standard.
yeah,
It's the story of when the angel Gabriel
right.
tells the Virgin Mary that she's going to have Jesus,
Yes.
and she says yes.
Mm. And
So
you
the fruit of that
meditate on it,
mystery,
right?
huh?
You meditate on that mystery while you're praying.
Very much so.
Yes. Mm.
But what the one of the fruits of the mystery that's generally accepted is humility.
Mm.
That Mary did not say, no, that's not my plan, whatever.
Mm.
Mary just humbly accepted that that was God's plan for her. So when you pray that mystery, you could be thinking to yourself, am I humble enough
Mm.
to accept God's plan
Mm.
when He presents it to me?
Mm.
And so it's the scripture, it's the mystery, and then maybe what fruit or what lesson you can
Mm.
learn from them.
Mm.
Very beautiful. So
Right.
I had never prayed a rosary with someone before. And there was a lady that volunteered at the school. We sat down, we prayed a rosary one day. I found myself crying afterwards. I was so moved. And I thought, I have learned so much just by praying with one other person.
Mm.
What could happen if we started a prayer group here after school? So
Mm.
I started a rosary club with the students where we would go over every week a different mystery of the rosary. We
Mm.
would act it out, or we would sing it,
Mm.
or an older child would read the scriptures, and then the children would like do a skit
Mm.
reenacting what it is. So if it was Jesus's first miracle, the wedding at Cana,
Mm.
we would have an older child would read it, and then the younger children would show him changing the water into wine. It was a very an immersive, like interactive way to pray. And
Mm.
the children had a deeper understanding for what the scriptures were that these mysteries are based on.
Mm.
So we did that every week. Meanwhile, I'm still dealing with the paralysis and whatever. And I
Mm.
think I'd mentioned I had come to a place in my life where I realized maybe this is just God's plan for me. I need to be humble and accept this and continue on and do the work that I'm doing. So I ended up having two more surgeries, more rounds of physical therapy. Um, some of the side effects, I had gastro problems as a result of it, other issues. It was just there were a lot of things to handle, but I felt like I was happy. And so one summer, it was 2005, I think it was 2000. I woke up one day and I had all my feeling back.
Wow.
All of my feeling had come back one day.
Just
4.5 years later,
wow.
I had not
How,
expected it.
what
I had just given it up to God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what lesson have you learned from the 2.5 years in paralysis?
4.5 years of
Four
paralysis.
lessons. You see,
4.5 years of
a
paralysis.
4.5
First of all, I go back to what my grandmother said. Do you believe in the power of prayer?
power of prayer.
Second,
Okay.
very much so.
All right.
Secondly,
Secondly,
giving it up to God.
giving up.
It is so hard to give it up to God.
Giving up. Yeah.
And, you know, when you're a goal oriented person or whatever, you're just like, if I do this, this, and this, and I reach this goal, then this was something beyond my control. I couldn't like follow this, this, and this and reach a goal. There was no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had to let it go. And once I let it go, I feel like God moved in. When you're in trying to control so much, you're not letting God in to control it. And so I still
Sure.
had done
I
physical
think
therapy. I
you
mean, I didn't like
surrendered to God.
give
You
up.
surrendered your life to God.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So surrender is number two. Number three.
Well, I have to go back to surrender a little bit.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Surrender doesn't mean give up.
Right.
So giving up is I'm just not going to do anything. I'm
Mm,
not going to work on anything. I don't have goals. Surrender is I still have goals. I still have a life. I'm still doing these things, but
mhm.
I've surrendered everything to the will of God.
Yeah. Mm.
I'm not giving up on my hopes and dreams.
Mm, mm,
So I feel like that's an important distinction.
mm,
There's a difference between giving up and surrendering.
mm.
And so, unless you're talking about giving up to God, if
Yeah.
you're giving something up to God, you're saying, God, I give this to you
Right.
and you're going to help me with this.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure what I would say number three is, but I would say number three is hope, maybe.
Correct.
Because,
Hope. Yes, hope. Hope,
so, I'm going to
faith.
fast
I
forward
think
because
your hope and faith grew. Yeah.
yes, and it's funny because faith and hope are two fruits of the mysteries of the rosary too.
Mm,
To have faith and hope.
mm-hmm.
So I prayed those a lot. I believe it's the glorious mysteries that
Mm,
have to do with the resurrection
mm.
of Jesus and the ascension of Jesus. Faith and hope, very much so. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward a lot because it would take a lot of time to go through the backstory here. I ended up uh, going with friends, still practicing Catholic. I've
Mm,
gone to various Catholic churches in the area, but I've gone to a lot of Protestant churches too. I've done things like the Purpose Driven Life with
mm,
a prayer group at a local Baptist church here. I've gone to the same Baptist church for Bible study things, gone to another Baptist church for Bible study things,
mm.
but still going to my church. So I'm very open to just Christianity,
Correct.
although I consider myself a
You're
Catholic.
Catholic. Yeah. Which is
But
good.
I
Yes. Mm,
I believe in fellowship.
correct.
I believe in fellowship.
Yeah.
And so I had a friend who had invited me to go to a very large church,
Mm,
kind of far away from me, a Baptist church.
mm,
I would say a good 25, 30-minute drive
mm,
on a slow day.
mm.
With traffic, more like 45 minutes. So this is not a close church. But I decided to go with this friend, and ended up taking a Bible study class. Meanwhile, I'm still going to my church too in Friendswood.
Yeah.
So I go to this Bible study class, and my friend is no longer even going to church with me. I'm just going to this Bible study class on my own.
Mm,
And one day we're going around in a circle and we're reading different Bible verses.
Mm,
and I hear this guy reading a Bible verse.
mm,
Wow, I love the way the word comes out of his mouth.
mm,
That's when I met Jerry.
mm,
I heard him read the word of God before I ever met him or saw him.
mm,
So I ended up meeting him and we talked. We saw each other in class for a while. We ended up going out to dinner
mm,
and we ended up becoming very good friends,
mm,
dating for a while. I would say for a couple of years we dated. We were even engaged for a while. We weren't sure if that was our path,
mm,
but I would say he was my confidant and my closest companion. We became very interested, and he was a Catholic who also went to this church with a friend and took this class by himself. And he lived about 45 minutes away.
mm,
So, what are the chances that two people who don't live in the same area meet at this church in a Bible study class? So, we ended up beginning to read the Bible together. I just to give you a quick 10-second synopsis. He's originally from New Orleans,
mm.
lost everything in Katrina,
Yeah.
and the company he worked for also had an office in Clear Lake, which is by NASA.
Mm.
So he just moved here and started his whole life over. And
Wait.
that's when I met Barry. He has his own little miracles going on in his life. Okay. Um, like swimming through 6 feet of water to try and save someone's life, those kind of
Yeah.
stories.
Mm,
But anyway, so he moved here, and that's when I met him in this Bible study class. So he became I would say he would became my companion.
mhm,
After maybe 4 years, we decided that we were not meant to be husband and wife
mm,
necessarily. But I would say that our companionship we were soulmates, very deep soulmates.
mm,
And we began reading the Bible every day.
mm,
And we came up with a binder.
mm,
And this binder, we had like a schedule for how we were going to read the Bible. We
mm,
would read Old Testament, New Testament, and then we would read a psalm or a proverb. And we went through the whole Bible in a year. And the first time it was kind of rushed,
mm,
but we read it.
mhm, mhm,
So we decided to do it again. In this binder, I came up with these
mm,
reflections that we would do. What have we learned from this? What nugget can we take from the scripture to apply for our life?
mm,
So we went the second time through the Bible. Then we went the third time through the Bible. And I found that we both had different things that we brought to our Bible study.
mm,
With Jerry, it was very important to know the background
mhm,
behind how that book of the Bible was written. So if it was St. Paul writing his letters, Jerry wanted to know, where was St. Paul? Was he in prison? What was going on in the area at the time? It brought a whole nother level of understanding for what was going on in the Bible when he brought that fresh take to it. So we were on, I need to back up a little bit here. Um, so even though I recovered from the paralysis,
mm,
I still had some lasting damage
mm,
internally that we didn't know about. And so in 2016,
mm,
I had to start kidney dialysis
mm,
because I had the end stage renal disease.
mhm,
So I had a lot more time. I couldn't work at the time.
mm.
It took a while for me to build my strength.
Yeah.
But this was a great time for us to pray and for me to do all these Bible reflections.
Mhm,
So fast forward to 2022, Jerry and I did not celebrate opening presents. Oh, you know what? I should stop there. Hold on a second. So 2016, I think I told you I'd had all these. We didn't know it was my kidneys for like
Mm,
5 years. I
mm,
was just very sick. I used to weigh like 70 pounds less than I do now. I was a walking skeleton.
mm,
And my mother was also very ill, and we both ended up in the hospital at the same time. I
mm,
was in the hospital for like 5 or 6 weeks.
mm.
During this time, my mother died.
Oh.
She had been born on August 15th, which is the Assumption, feast day of the Assumption of Mary,
Mm,
and she died on May 8th, 2016, which was my brother's birthday,
mm.
but it was also Mother's Day.
Oh.
So my mother was born the Assumption of Mary, the Blessed Mother,
Yeah.
and died on Mother's Day. Even though that was a very sad day, and I feel very bad for my brother that it happened on his birthday. I feel that that shows that my mother was blessed.
Mm, mm,
That those 2 days were, but her life was bookended by
mm,
these two special days. I felt like that was a sign from God, and it helped with the grief, to be honest with you, when she died.
mm,
But at the same time that that's happening, I'm also going through starting dialysis for the first time.
mhm,
And so it was a very chaotic time. And I have to say that we talked about hope. I felt that just knowing that those two important days were the bookends of her life gave me hope. It was like a sign from God. She's in heaven and she's in God's hands.
mm,
So at my local church, Mary Queen, I decided to do a consecration to this to the Blessed Mother,
mm,
consecration to Mary. And we did it according to a book called 33 Days to Morning Glory.
mm,
And two of the people that they um, they kind of borrow from different philosophers and church fathers from the past and their writings. And we would read them and we would discuss them. And it was a way for us to, we would also pray. And it
mhm,
was a way for us to come closer to God and to understand how the Virgin Mary was an example of listening to God's will and
mm,
accepting God's will. And that we needed to do the same thing with Jesus. And so, um, two of the people that we read about were St. Louis de Montfort,
mhm,
who I've read a couple of his books, The Secrets of the Rosary and True Devotion to Mary, and St. Maximilian Kolbe, who
mm.
I told you was in that concentration camp in Auschwitz.
Yeah,
And as a little girl, I had gone to Auschwitz. So it was like, oh my goodness, St. Max Kolbe, big reason why I, when I saw the concentration camps as a kid, really impacted me. His story really impacted me.
mhm.
And his feast day is August 15th, August 14th, the day before my mother's birth.
Oh,
Um, so a big part of our consecration was reading about him. So on August 15th, my mother's birthday, the
mm,
day after his feast day, and the feast day of the Assumption of Mary, I completed the consecration to the Blessed Mother and got a miraculous medal.
ah,
So this miraculous medal um, is just a standard miraculous medal, sterling silver, whatever,
yeah.
or stainless steel. It's not anything,
Mm,
but I had this miraculous medal. So Jerry really loved this, but he did not go to the classes. Jerry was very, very disabled. It was difficult for him to walk.
mm,
But we did a lot of online classes with our church.
Mm.
And especially during COVID, people weren't even going to church. And so we were doing online classes and watching mass online. And then we also had this Baptist church. We would watch
Mm.
um their sermons too. So we would like get double doses of sermons. And I don't want to make it seem like Baptist is the only thing. I've
Mm.
been to Methodist church around here,
Correct.
Lutheran church. I was raised in Lutheran church. Lots of other churches around here, but I say Baptist because in the South in the United States,
Mm.
Baptist churches are a big, they're kind of predominant in the South of the
Yeah.
United. So he was the same as me about we're practicing Catholics, we pray, but we also fellowship and learn the truths from other churches as well. So Jerry and I have been praying for years at this point. COVID happens, and Jerry says, "You know what? I would love to have a miraculous medal like,
Mm.
but I would like to have a St. Christopher medal too." He went to St. Christopher's Church in New Orleans as a child. So for Christmas that year, I bought him a miraculous medal. This is all sterling silver. Miraculous medal, a St. Christopher medal, and a huge cross. And I gave it to him on a necklace.
Mm.
And he was thrilled.
Mm.
Wore he said, "I want to wear this all the time." Puts it on and he said, "You know what? Jerry's a huge football player guy, kind of a bull in a china closet kind of guy." He said, this chain is gonna break."
Mm.
So he said, "I'm gonna take care of it." So I bought him another chain, but we could not fit the metals on the chain. So he says, "I'm gonna go get it fixed at some jewelry store." So he does. Comes back and he has it on a new chain. And this guy wore that chain
Mm.
24 hours a day, except for when he was taking a shower. Always wore the chain.
Mm.
So fast forward the next year,
Mm.
we don't open presents on Christmas.
Yeah.
We open presents like 2 or 3 weeks later at my brother's house in
Mm.
Dallas. So it's January 2nd. We had our Christmas tree up. We're taking it down. We have still have our presents out because we haven't opened them yet because we're waiting for 2 or 3 weeks. But it's January 2nd, and I think it's a Sunday, and
Mm.
we're taking down the Christmas tree, and some glitter got on our blankets and comforters and all of that kind of stuff. So he says, "I'm going to go to a laundromat and I'm going to get this fixed. I'm going to go get the
Mm.
blanket
Mm.
cleaned." He leaves. I finish packing up the ornaments. He comes home. He goes to take a shower. And meanwhile, I'm in the den reading.
Mm.
The fan is on in the bathroom, and I realize, it's been on for a long time. I come into the bedroom, and he's dead.
Oh.
I called 911, and my nurse right across the way, I mean, my neighbor right across the way is a nurse.
Mm.
She comes, she starts giving him mouth to mouth and all of that.
Mm.
The ambulance comes. They can't save him.
Mm.
Very, very freaked out. It
Yeah.
was very, very, very traumatic.
Mm.
And I felt like I was having panic attacks all the time. God, what am I going to do?
Mm.
This person has been my rock. This
Yeah.
person has been my prayer partner. This
Yeah.
person has been the person that I read the Bible with.
Yeah.
And I was just panicking.
Mm.
Meanwhile, my brother said, it was very bad because he died and he was in the middle of the den and they couldn't move him
Mm.
because they had to have it signed off by a doctor
Mm.
before the police would allow him to leave.
Mm,
So he was there for like 8 hours.
mhm, mhm,
I had a hard time even being in that room after this happened. My brother said, "You come up here with the dog, get out of that place. You just come up here and stay with us for a few days." It was just very panicky there. So I'm like, I don't have all the Christmas presents for my brother's family wrapped. I have to wrap them real quick before I leave to go up there. And then I bought my nephew a miraculous medal because he was going to be going to college soon.
mm,
And I wanted him to have a miraculous medal when
mm,
he went off to college. I'm like, I need to go and get this miraculous medal put on a chain for my nephew because he's a guy. He
mm,
runs cross country. I don't want it to get damaged. I'm like, I have to take care of this and wrap presents. So I run to the jewelry store halfway through panic attacks, trying to get this done before I drive up to my brother's. And I walk in and they're fixing my nephew's miraculous medal. They're putting it on the chain I had bought for him. And he asked, "Oh, well, what's your name?" Yada yada. I tell him my name's Gretchen Mosel. He goes, "I know that name." I'm like, "How do you know my name?" I had never stepped foot in this jewelry store in my life.
yeah, 3 minutes.
I thought, "Do you know my mother?"
Yeah.
No, he didn't know my mother. Whatever. I said, "Well, the only other person I could think of that maybe have mentioned my name
Mm,
is Jerry Griffin." He
mm,
goes, "That's it. The guy from New Orleans."
mm,
I'm like, "Yes." What? He goes, "Oh, I remember this guy because I'm from New Orleans too."
mm,
And we're talking about it. His name is Chris. He's from New Orleans. Jerry was from New Orleans. They just hit it off. So he knew my name and he knew Jerry's name.
mm,
I thought, what are the chances? I live near Baybrook Mall.
mm,
Not far from Tanger Mall.
mm,
There are dozens of jewelry stores.
mm.
What are the chances that I'm going to walk into a jewelry store that happens to be the one where Jerry had his chain done?
Oh.
So I'm wearing it when I'm in there. This
Mm,
is it right here.
mm.
Take it off. I
Oh.
wear it
That's another
every day.
miracle.
Oh, not yet. So I'm wearing this when I'm in there. This was Jerry's.
Mm,
He wore it every day. This is the miraculous medal. No, this is the miraculous medal. This is the St. Christopher medal. And
mm,
then this is the cross. And I was wearing it when I walked in there. I said, "Is this it?" He goes, "Yes." So he's looking on the count on the computer and he goes, "You have something."
mm,
He goes, "He got something for you." I said, "What?" He said, "Yes, you have something that he bought for you." And I go, "I have not received any jewelry from
mm,
him."
mm,
So I said, "Okay." So he finishes putting the miraculous medal together for my nephew.
mm,
And I pick it up and I'm like, "Thank you very much for all of this." And
mhm,
I go home and I just sit down for a minute. And I go, I went there to get the miraculous medal fixed for my
mm,
nephew.
mm,
And I'm wearing the miraculous medal that Jerry
mhm,
wore that
mhm,
I gave him.
mhm,
Where is this jewelry that he gave me?
mhm,
I tore that place apart and I couldn't find it.
mhm,
I found some other gifts for me from him, but I couldn't find this jewelry. I'm getting upset.
mm,
And finally I said, "You know what? I got to go.
mm,
I've got to pack up and go to my brother's." So I go to the closet and up high, I'm tall, but Jerry was over 6 foot.
mm.
Up high in the closet are the suitcases.
Yeah.
I never messed with the suitcases.
Yeah.
Jerry always got them down.
Yeah. That's a
But
lot of
because it's me
trouble.
now, I have to get the suitcases down by myself. And so I'm trying to do it. And
Mm,
I have weak arms because of the dialysis.
yeah.
I pull them down and I'm like, oh, Jerry wasn't here to do this. And I'm opening the suitcase to pack. And inside the suitcase is a wrapped gift from the jewelry store in a uh, in a bag with, like, beautiful box on the inside. All the receipts are there. He had hidden it, knowing that I would never get the suitcases down.
Mm.
He hid the present in there.
Oh.
Unfortunately for him, I know how much it cost.
Oh.
So what he had done
Mm,
was, after Christmas the year before, when I gave him this,
mm-hmm,
he had gone to the jewelry store
mm-hmm,
and put on layaway a
mm,
gift for me
mm,
and paid it off the whole year,
mm.
and had just finished the last payment before Christmas.
Oh, I see. All right. Our time is up. Our next guest is here.
I'm sorry. So
It's
this was the
okay.
gift.
Thank you so much, Gretchen, for, let's just summarize. My reflection is that you are so close to Jesus. And
But I just wanted to
I
say that
envy your
he gave
heart.
me a miraculous medal, that it was
Yeah,
solid
that's it.
gold.
Yes, all right. My reflection is your relationship with God is so sweet. It's simple. It's not based on emotions, but it is based on true faith and true walk with God. You've been through a lot of trials, but look at you. You're still joyful. Isn't that a real relationship with God?
Well, thank you. I
So I
just
give
wanted to
you that
say that
question.
hope is was the third thing.
Right.
And
Here's the third
when
thing.
I found that he gave me
Mm,
a miraculous medal
mm,
that was solid gold, it
mm,
was like a message from God
mm,
that everything was going to be okay.
mm,
That Jerry's up there with him.
mm.
And I guess if you say simple, that's simple hope right there. I apologize for interrupting you.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's okay. Because I'd like to thank you for your honesty, your candid personality just really suited our show. I hope,
Thank you.
yeah, we like simple stories because most of us, are simple people. We were simple people made great by God. So I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, really,
Thank
for
you.
guesting. It was a sober sharing, and it made me realize that God is real. Whatever we do, whoever we are, whatever our faith is in this Christian context, God is real. Christianity is not religion, it is a relationship. Thank you so much, dear Gretchen Mosel.
Good.
I
Thank
hope
you
we
for
can talk
inviting me.
about your faith and family in Friendswood magazine next time. Its content, the lessons we can learn from it, and encourage people, to read your magazine. And that's for next time. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Bye for
Thank you.
now. Thank you so much
Bye.
for watching us. I hope that you've learned from a publisher, an educator, and a real Christian who experiences Jesus on a day-to-day basis. Very challenging faith, isn't it? Okay, so thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you for
A
having me.
publisher at Faith and Family in Friendswood. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Ta with Crazy Talk with Wise People. Thank you once again. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye bye.